We woke up this morning. I know Staffan had been working late last night, and it's like, holy crap, it's like 64 people already. And now we have a waiting list of, hold on here, 85 people that say they want to try this product. So no pressure, Hassan, on building something here. Previously on Founders Weekly, we embarked on a very ambitious challenge, building and launching an AI product in just 4 days. By the end of day 2, we had our core technology working, early user validation, and a growing waitlist. But with only 48 hours remaining, the biggest challenges still lay ahead. Welcome to Founders Weekly, where we tell startup stories you can learn from. My name is Heine Zachariasen. Day 3 began with what seemed like a devastating technical hurdle. We just couldn't get our YouTube integration to work. While podcasts were relatively straightforward with their standardized RSS feeds, YouTube proved to be a very different beast entirely.
Yeah, I mean, YouTube. So basically in August 2024, today I went through a whole history lesson with YouTube. They started cracking down on downloaders or scrapers or whatever the heck you want to call it, right? So I've been having to deal with a whole lot of running through a lot of loops since the morning to get YouTube to work. Everything works perfectly on podcast and RSS, like literally perfectly, right? But the moment we hit YouTube, it just goes nuts.
So this wasn't just a minor setback, it threatened the entire project, the entire idea of the project. Our research showed that many content creators start with YouTube before moving into podcasts. Without a reliable YouTube support, we'd be cutting out a crucial part of the market and a crucial part of the product. So YouTube was a requirement.
A lot of people don't realize how much work goes into that. Like, the way you can post the URL can be 5 different ways. And it's the developer's job to just, instead of saying, like some people will say, hey, the URL you post has to be exactly like this and make sure it matches like this. And it
humans
starts
are not
bugging
like
you.
That, right?
And I hate that. I hate when apps do that. It's like, just, I'm sure you can figure it out. And so, so that's what I did. So now we're inputting things in 3 different, not even formats, but 3 different entire things, which is the RSS feed of a podcast and the Apple podcast feed of a podcast, or like a link to an Apple podcast, and a link to your YouTube channel, right? So 3 separate mediums, if you want to call them. And in these 3 separate mediums, each of them has I think 3 or 4 different ways that people can link to them.
Meanwhile, our marketing efforts were gaining traction. Staffan, our growth expert, had been working his magic on Reddit and Discord. Things were starting to happen.
I think that Reddit is the best at, handling bots and so on. So I went to a channel which is called First Tubers or something, like New Tubers, they're calling themselves. They really embraced at least the discussion of learning from past mistakes. I think the post has been alive for an hour. We've gained 3,000 views, and it's completely free. If you were to translate that to Google Ads or Reddit ads, it would start to be expensive. And this is just the beginning, right? So I just need to find out the best angle that actually fits organically with the people that are YouTubers or podcasters. So that's where I'm at. I'm going to launch the podcast thing later tonight. That's my thinking, and see what kind of traction there is there. But I think that the competition is even fiercer on the podcast people, because YouTube, that's a platform, right? You can publish something and, fingers crossed it actually works. If you have a podcast, there's no real platform where you just launch the podcast and you have to do something, right? So I'm very excited to see if they would embrace the product or not. So that's where I am. So it looks really good.
Yeah. And you say the angle on Reddit is that, hey, there is this new tool, you can learn from your past mistakes and so on. Are you specific on the features too, or you keep that a little bit open and let people click, or how does that work on Reddit?
I do mention that it generates headlines and content, but I want to downplay that stuff because, again, I don't want to be another AI tool that promises too much, right? My biggest angle is that again, it's a learning tool. It is a tool for you to use. So that's where I am.
So that's Reddit, and I look, Reddit is incredible, right? I think Hassan is a big fan too, but it's just these communities that are just so strong, all kinds of niches, and the size and the scale of it is just very, very impressive. But they can be a little bit harsh if you're advertising, so you must know some kind of balance, not to push too hard. What do you say about that?
Exactly. So you can't just, hop into a group and everyone's going to embrace you, because there's especially when it comes to YouTube, everyone wants to publish and showcase their YouTube videos, and it's just an insane amount. So you have to do something. So I would recommend just going to the moderators first, or they also have a dedicated Discord, right? Go to them first. Like, hey, I want to mention this app. Is this okay? I can remove like any wordings that you prefer or anything like that. I think that's the best method.
And a lot of excitement. The waitlist was growing faster than we expected. What started out with 18 people grew to 64 and then 85. Each new sign up added pressure. These weren't just numbers, they were real content creators waiting to try our product. We brought on Josh, a YouTuber from Chicago, to test our progress and provide feedback on the real world applications.
I think that if it's done right, it can be a very useful product, because there's something that a lot of creators don't have. There's a lot of tools that are being made right now that are kind of just extensions of ChatGPT. So if this tool, which it seems like it can so far from what I've seen, if it can do a lot more than that and actually function, like where me as a creator, I can use it on the daily, then I think it would be a very, very good use case. And I would actually, want to purchase the product or use the product in any way, shape, or form.
Stoyan's feedback from day one also left important insights about thumbnails and video management.
What about thumbnail generation? Does that matter? So what I mean by matter is there are tools that produce thumbnails right now. However, the difference is I can see specifically for someone like you, like when we just put in your feed, you're very consistent, right? It always looks exactly the same. You have like the guests on there. You have a little title that's different, and then like something that's from within the podcast, right? What if it can figure that out? It can produce exactly like your kind of thumbnail every single time. Or is it something where, I already have a template for it, it takes me 10 minutes, or is it not?
Kind of both. We have a template. It doesn't really take much time. What I think would be interesting is actually to make it a little bit different. The same kind of vibe, but right now we are using still photos from the guests, right? Like, so it's not from the episode. And I'm doing podcast, which is online, which is a decision because I don't want to complicate it, right? No. But if you can take a shot from the actual podcast and make it a little bit more interesting, not exactly the same. Like, actually, I don't want it to be exactly the same. It's just the simplest way to do it. So if it does that, but literally it takes us, I don't know, like 1 minute to change the template now. So it doesn't really, But if it's something that makes it a little bit more interesting, and then it's
so it's more interesting to improve rather than to just like do more of the same.
Yeah, exactly. Something that's the same kind of vibe and branding and style, but maybe it adds a little bit so it's it's more interesting. There's this kind of novelty a little bit.
By late afternoon on day 3, Hassan had finally cracked the YouTube problem, but not exactly in the way we had expected. So YouTube, on the other hand, is a closed ecosystem owned by Google, and they are just not allowing us to work with it as we would like to work with it, right? So talk a little bit about that, because we thought we had that fixed 2 days ago, and today maybe not so much.
I know. And they changed it recently, apparently. Like as of August, they really started cracking down. And I used every trick in the book, literally every trick in the book, to where eventually I realized, like, okay, the only way is there's some people out there that have a bunch of machines running and pretending to be humans, and they constantly like switch accounts and yada yada, and they sell this service. That's what we ended up doing.
Didn't fly.
Yeah,
no.
That didn't fly.
No, the thing, if there's a learning here, right? We should have checked that box day 1, day 2, and maybe even before we started. And then we sort of, all this other stuff is working. This is great, but it's sometimes you have things that don't work, and just in the end you said, look, let's not do that. With this, we couldn't do that. This was a key feature for us. There was no way around it, right? Which meant we spent a lot of time on it today. When I say we, in this case, that would be Hassan. But yeah, there was spent a lot of time on this today, but that's life. I mean, especially when you do a hackathon, if someone has built it before and you can sort of license their service, don't build it from scratch. It's much easier to let others build it and you pay for it and use it. The night of day 3 brought another challenge, scaling our infrastructure. Hassan had been sort of running all of this on his laptop. That was obviously not going to scale. But now we needed to move all of this onto production servers. Everything just worked. You built this product in an hour. I mean, that was it. What next? But it's just in the real world. It's just problem after problem. Yeah. And we had a couple of, I mean, I want to talk a little bit about, I mean, first of all, you also work too much today, right? We had we try and do a schedule here so that we start around 9-ish. Hassan sits by himself so he can work but you literally had breakfast and then we tried to get you down for lunch around 1 o'clock. You literally didn't come down till 3-4 o'clock, right? And we said, hey, what's happening? And what happened there?
It was twofold. One was I was in a little bit of a flow because I needed to provision the entire live actual servers because everything was running locally on my machine. But obviously, that's not going to help anyone if it's not actually on the web. So I had to buy a server and had to do all the DNS stuff and put everything up there and get a database and provision that and push everything. So there was all of this. And then, actually doing a lot of the release process per se, that was also a ton of work.
One of our clever technical solutions involved handling larger video files efficiently.
These YouTube files or video files are really, really big when you're doing a new release. Yeah, so having to upload a 6 gig file is pretty nuts. When in reality, all I really need is the audio, at least for what we're doing now. So we came up with this idea of what if we can just have the file in your browser and then transform it into audio and then upload that. And I didn't think it was going to work, but it worked. So, so that was cool. Exactly. That was cool. But it took a while, right? And it was just a lot of work.
But that was a big deal. That was actually a big deal. That was because this has always been a concern of mine with this product. It's okay, I know how long it takes to upload these files. So there's an opportunity to actually do separate it locally and then upload it. It's really, really smart. And that's working now. Exactly. And you're going to show us that, Hassan. So that's amazing too. And day 4 brought some great news and an unexpected recognition. We had made it to the homepage of Indie Hackers. This brought another wave of signups to our waitlist, but also increased the pressure to deliver something worthy of the attention. We got an article on Indie Hackers. We posted there and got some likes and stuff. That's kind of cool. The website is actually really quite far now. We have a logo. It looks nice. It's a good landing page. And the reason why we know it's a good landing page is because a lot of people landed there and actually used it. So this is the wild thing. And you all met Staffan yesterday, along with Levin, who's been helping with the marketing. Staffan has done an amazing job. I mean, he's been all over Reddit and Discord, and literally the posts that he has done have had 10,000s of views. And this has led to people coming to the JustRelease website. And now we have a waiting list of, hold on here, 85 people that say they want to try this product. So no pressure, Hassan, on building something here. So it's really, really cool to see that there's such interest in it, I must say. So that's been a really, really big win. We woke up this morning. I know Staffan had been working late last night. And it's holy crap, it's 64 people already. And now it's up to 85 and just growing all the time. So super cool, I must say. Really, really pleased with that.
Yeah, that's really awesome. I'm very, very impressed by it, especially the Reddit stuff. And I think you also mentioned the Discord. How much of that was, or what's the point? I don't know. You guys are doing the marketing stuff. So what's the Discord thing?
Yeah, you should definitely not ask me about Discord. This is not my core competence. So we talked a little bit about it yesterday, but it's twofold. So Discord is a free version, community version of Slack, which has a specific format that reminds you of Slack. That's one thing. And then there are communities you can pitch into. At the same time, we're also building a Discord channel for ourselves. We've opted not to build any social channels for the product yet because we didn't think we can do anything in 4 days. Meaning, building an X account or LinkedIn, all those things, you can do that. But after 4 days, you have 12 followers, and that just doesn't help you much. Yeah. Discord can move faster. And we've seen now that Discord actually already has not hundreds, but tens of people in the group, which means we can communicate directly. Hey, check out this feature. How's this? And so on. So that's exciting. But It's very popular. It came out of gaming, and people use Discord a lot for this kind of product development. And then you have the final day, a little bit of chaos, obviously, but it was like a sprint to get everything production ready. I'd say our focus was sort of split between these 4 critical areas: stabilizing the core technologies, just making sure things worked, building the payment system, and refining the AI outputs. And obviously, maybe a little bit late, but we really started working on the outputs on day 4. And number 4, testing. I mean, you should really spend a lot of time on testing at the final day. There are going to be so many surprises when you actually start testing. So test a lot with sort of normal human beings, not just developers. We also tackled language support, aiming to make JustRelease useful for creators all over the world.
The language stuff was very interesting. I did a very fun language test right before we went live. I spoke in Arabic to it, and it actually did a extremely good transcription, which was great, and then an extremely good title and description as well, and even figured out like some specific quotes around that. So that worked. I think like language models, specifically when it comes to translation, are amazing. I think Heini, you as well, you translate most of the things you translate now using LLMs, right? Like you just ask OpenAI to
it's so much better
for you.
The Arabic thing was cool. Suddenly he's shouting at his computer in Arabic, which worked really well. And we got some of that on video, and we'll make sure it's in a short or whatever it's coming in the next couple of days. The final hours was testing, like intense debugging and sort of last minute improvements. And when we look at it, we thought, okay, what have we actually built here? And we felt like this is kind of impressive. Let's go through real quickly. We had a system that automatically would ingest content from podcasts and YouTube, process hour-long videos in minutes, learn creators' unique style from previous content, generate titles, descriptions, and social posts, support multiple languages, process new content efficiently through a browser-based conversion.
I think big takeaway for me is hacking culture and hackathon culture is, I would say, alive and well, which is very against my beliefs over the last few years. But I think I've been proven wrong. I always hear, especially like, it's really great to start something, like when you're starting a company or a product or something, it's great to start it at the same place. Like this whole idea of locking each other up in like one place and just building. Yeah, I wouldn't say I was against it, but definitely I wasn't a fan. And I think I was wrong. Like there is something really great about doing at least that first week together, at least, So I think that went really well because the progress has been insane. Like we built the whole thing, man. It's
whole
actually
thing,
crazy.
Website, marketing, everything. Yeah. I mean, Hassan has been amazing. If Baba is listening, you should be really proud of him. Incredible job. A lot of time he's been locked up in this actually wonderful room here and incredibly focused. And today it's been a little bit more ping pong, but also the incredible job you've done. And so has Levin and Stefan, obviously. But the coding part, it's hard to be without. So incredible job there.
No, Heine, I think a lot of credit also goes to you, obviously, for like hosting us here, but like keeping us on our toes. And not just that, like you were extremely helpful. You're always like, okay, what do we need? What do we need to do? What are we doing? What do you need to be successful? I can totally see why you're such a successful CEO and such a successful leader. It was really nice working together.
Likewise. First time we've done a project like this together. It's cool. Yeah. Thank you. Before we start crying here, we should just end it before we really start crying. We're not done yet, but here are some quick learnings. So the project really taught us a lot about doing a hackathon and also about building a startup. Let's go through a few of them. More to come, but let's go through a few of them. Number 1, the power of constraints. Having only 4 days forces us to make decisions quickly. Something you should always do when you're building a startup because you have constraints much more than you think. Number 2, the importance of real user feedback. Again, obvious, but it's so bloody important to get as much real user feedback as possible. Just always remember it. Number 3, balance between building and buying solutions. Honestly, anything you can buy, any API you can use, do it. Obviously, it has to be something that scales, but as much as you can, use other people's API when you're trying to build fast. Number 4, the value of diverse teams with complementary skills. This is key. Hassan can do certain things, Levin can do other things, I can do other things, and we had Stefan helping us too. If you don't have those different skills, you're not going to get there. So you really need complementary skills. I want to do a full episode on learnings. We talk through everything we learned when we have it a little bit more in the distance. There is so much to learn, not just about doing a hackathon, but really about how to build a startup. Some startups should be built as a hackathon, at least in the early days. Do it like that. So make sure you follow, because there's a lot more to come on this. However, the ultimate question remains: had we achieved our goal of getting a paying customer within 4 days? Well, the answer to that question is somewhat, because we did have someone pay for the product, but it was somebody who's very, very close to us. Shall we say someone related, someone in the family had gone in and actually paid for the product. Some might say it's a little bit of cheating, but at least, they did pay for it. It did work. So the answer is maybe. That said, we haven't sent the email to the waitlist yet. And we know there are going to be interested people on that waitlist. We had some bugs we had to clean up before, so we didn't want to do it. But that's coming. So stay here. We'll keep you updated. But pricing, back to the actual question you had. Well, what kind of other services do you use and how much do you pay for them? And what do you think?
So if you're looking into the scope of the 4 days, right? What you guys are trying to...
Yeah, exactly.
I think it's probably going to be something, 10, 20 euro.
Yeah. That is literally where we're starting.
If you look into the whole video side we're discussing, maybe if you guys decide to develop in half a year, I don't know how much time, I'm not a tech guy, then you can go, 50 to 100 maybe. Maybe more, I don't know. But I think for this kind of functions, probably 10 to 20 euros, something like that.
If you want to try JustRelease, visit justrelease.ai. We built this all in 96 hours to help content creators focus on what they do best, creating great content. I'm Heine Sakaraisen, and this has been part 2 of building a startup in 4 days, the JustRelease story. We've come to the end of another episode of Founders Weekly. Please make sure you follow and subscribe wherever you listen to podcasts and leave a review and rating. It really helps. For those of you on YouTube, check out Raw Startup. A lot of great videos about building a startup. This has been Founders Weekly. Now stop listening, go build something.